Marcus Hale was 37 years old, a black single father living in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood on the edge of a modest town. Every morning, his day began the same way. Before the sun fully rose, he woke up to the soft hum of the old refrigerator and the distant sound of delivery trucks passing by. He moved carefully through the small two-bedroom house, mindful not to wake his son, Noah, who was 9 and slept curled on his side like he was protecting his dreams. Marcus worked as a city bus maintenance technician, a steady job that paid the bills but left little extra. His hands were always marked with grease stains that never quite washed off, no matter how hard he scrubbed. He packed Noah's lunch every day, a sandwich, fruit, and a note folded neatly inside that said something simple like, "Have a good day. I'm proud of you." After walking Noah to school, Marcus usually stood for a moment on the sidewalk, watching the kids scatter like birds, backpacks bouncing, laughter echoing. He didn't smile much, but his eyes softened every time Noah waved back at him before entering the school building. Their street was peaceful, neighbors waved politely, lawns were trimmed on weekends, and mailboxes stood in neat rows. Marcus liked the routine. Predictability gave him comfort. It helped keep the past quiet. He spent evenings cooking simple meals, helping Noah with homework at the kitchen table, and listening as his son talked endlessly about science projects and soccer practice. Sometimes, after Noah went to bed, Marcus sat alone on the back steps with a cup of tea, staring at the night sky. He didn't scroll on his phone much. He didn't watch much television. He mostly thought about work, about parenting, and about the pieces of his life that felt permanently unfinished. 2 houses down lived a woman named Clara Bennett. She was 34, worked part-time at the local community library, and had moved into the neighborhood about 6 months earlier. She had light brown hair she often tucked under a wide-brimmed hat when walking outside, and a calm presence that made people feel at ease. Clara was friendly in a quiet way. She smiled easily, helped elderly neighbors carry groceries, and always greeted Marcus when she saw him. At first, he returned her greetings politely. Over time, though, he began to avoid her, crossing the street, timing his walks differently, keeping his eyes down. Clara noticed, but she didn't say anything right away. Marcus told himself it was nothing. Just another habit, just another wall he didn't want to take down. The truth was, Marcus wasn't avoiding Clara because she'd done anything wrong. He was avoiding her because she reminded him of something he had lost and never fully grieved. Years earlier, Marcus had been married to a woman named Renee. They had met young, built dreams together, and welcomed Noah into their lives with hope and fear mixed in equal measure. Renee had been warm, open, and endlessly curious about people. She talked to neighbors, volunteered at school events, and believed deeply in community. Marcus had admired that about her, even when he didn't fully understand it. Life, however, had not gone gently with them. Long work hours, financial stress, and unspoken worries slowly created distance. Then illness came unexpectedly, brief and unforgiving, leaving Marcus alone with a toddler and a house full of memories. After Renee's passing, Marcus learned how to survive, not how to heal. He focused on responsibility, on being steady, on making sure Noah felt safe. He told himself that was enough. But every now and then, something small would break through, like the sound of laughter from another house, or the sight of someone standing in sunlight with an open, patient smile. Clara had that same gentle presence Renee once had. She listened when people spoke. She remembered small details. She cared in a way that felt natural, not forced. Every time Marcus saw her, it felt like a door inside him cracked open just enough to let old pain breathe again. He didn't want to feel that. He didn't want to explain it. So he avoided her. When she waved, he pretended not to see. When their paths crossed, he shortened conversations or made excuses. Clara, for her part, grew confused. She wondered if she'd offended him, or if there was something about her that made him uncomfortable. One afternoon, she watched Marcus walk past her house without looking up, his shoulders tense, his jaw tight. She decided then that avoiding the situation wasn't helping either of them. Marcus's struggle wasn't loud. There were no outbursts or dramatic moments. It was quiet and constant. A heavy feeling he carried everywhere. He wanted peace, but he was afraid that letting someone new see him, really see him, would mean reopening wounds he'd spent years trying to close. He worried about Noah, about change, about hope itself. Because hope, once lost, hurt more than loneliness ever could. Marcus tried to reason with himself. He told himself that Clara was just a neighbor, that there was no need for complicated feelings. He adjusted his schedule slightly, leaving earlier for work and coming home later, hoping to reduce the chances of running into her. On weekends, he focused on errands, chores, and keeping Noah busy with activities. He volunteered to help with school maintenance projects, partly because it gave him something useful to do and partly because it kept his mind occupied. He believed that if he stayed busy enough, the discomfort would fade. But life didn't cooperate. One Saturday morning, Noah asked why they never talked to Clara anymore. "She's nice," Noah said casually, tying his shoes. "She helped me find a book about planets once." Marcus paused, holding a coffee mug in his hands. He shrugged and said something vague about being busy. Noah didn't push, but the question lingered in Marcus's mind longer than he expected. Later that week, Marcus overheard two neighbors talking about how kind Clara was, how she was organizing a small neighborhood book exchange. He felt a familiar tightening in his chest. Avoidance wasn't making things easier, it was making him feel smaller. Clara, meanwhile, made her own effort. She didn't chase Marcus or confront him publicly. Instead, she focused on being herself, kind, patient, and open. One afternoon, she left a small note in his mailbox thanking him for helping fix a loose step on the sidewalk near her house. The note was simple, no expectations, just gratitude. Marcus read it twice, then folded it carefully and placed it in a drawer. He didn't respond, but something shifted. The effort on both sides, though indirect, began to soften the space between them. Marcus realized that he couldn't keep running from every reminder of his past. He owed it to himself, and to Noah, to learn how to live with memory without letting it control him. Still, knowing that and doing something about it were two very different things. The turning point came on a warm afternoon when Marcus was sorting mail by the community mailbox. He thought he was alone, but Clara approached quietly, her footsteps light on the pavement. She hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Marcus," she said gently, "can I ask you something?" He stiffened but nodded. She took a breath. "Why do you keep avoiding me?" Her voice wasn't angry, it was curious, and a little sad. "If I've done something wrong, I'd like to know." Marcus stared at the letters in his hands. For a long moment, he said nothing. The easy answer would have been another excuse. But something about her honesty, about the way she stood there without accusation, made it hard to lie. He swallowed and finally looked up at her. "You haven't done anything wrong," he said quietly. Clara waited. He exhaled slowly. "I avoid you because looking at you hurts." The words surprised even him. Clara didn't interrupt. He continued, choosing each sentence carefully. He told her about Renee, about loss, about how some people remind you of what you once had and make you afraid to want anything again. He didn't dramatize it. He didn't blame her. He just told the truth. Clara listened, her expression soft, her posture open. When he finished, there was a gentle silence between them. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "I never meant to cause pain." Marcus shook his head. "I know," he replied. "That's the problem." Clara smiled faintly, not out of happiness but understanding. "Thank you for telling me," she said. "You don't owe me anything. But I'm glad you trusted me with that." That moment didn't fix everything. But it changed the direction of things. It replaced misunderstanding with clarity. It turned avoidance into conversation. And for Marcus, it felt like setting down a weight he'd been carrying alone for far too long. After that conversation, things didn't suddenly become perfect. Marcus and Clara didn't rush into anything. They simply became neighbors again. They greeted each other. They talked sometimes. About books, about Noah's school projects, about everyday life. Clara respected Marcus's pace, and Marcus slowly learned that allowing someone into his world didn't mean replacing what he'd lost. It meant adding something new. Noah noticed the change right away. He liked seeing his father laugh more, even if it was quiet laughter. He liked that Clara came by sometimes with book recommendations or asked him about his interests. Marcus remained protective, careful, but no longer closed off. He began to understand that pain and connection could exist side by side. That remembering didn't have to mean suffering. That moving forward didn't erase the past, it honored it by choosing to live fully. Over time, Marcus felt lighter. Not because the past disappeared, but because it no longer dictated every choice he made. He learned that healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about allowing space for new experiences without guilt or fear. Clara, for her part, never tried to be more than what Marcus was ready for. She valued honesty and patience, and that was enough. The lesson of Marcus's story is simple but powerful. Avoiding pain doesn't make it go away, it just keeps you from living fully. Sometimes, the things that hurt us the most are reminders of love we were lucky enough to have. Facing those reminders with honesty and kindness can open doors we thought were permanently closed. Healing doesn't mean replacing the past, it means learning to carry it with grace while still making room for the future.